Welcome ladies and gentlemen to 2014's Wolfenstein The New Order. My name's Karl, and in this video today we will be taking a look at all of the Easter eggs, secrets and hidden funny little things that can be found in Wolfenstein The New Order. Be sure to let me know if I've missed any, and hopefully that will be none. You can also find timestamps in the description for each of the Easter eggs if you so wish to browse them in that fashion. Be sure to hit up my social medias and check out the other Easter egg videos that I've already done. Links to them can be found in the description. And just a friendly warning, this video will contain spoilers, as the Easter eggs are scattered throughout all points of the game, so you have had fair warning. And for those unfamiliar, an Easter egg is an unexpected or undocumented feature in a piece of computer software or on a DVD included as a joke or bonus. So while Easter eggs often are references to something, by definition they do not have to be. So let's get into the Easter eggs for Wolfenstein The New Order. You ready for the first one? There it was, wasn't that good? You probably missed it. Before the very first cutscene of the game, a simple slogan of "Get Psyched" will flash up on screen for only a few frames in a kind of pixelated font. Get Psyched is actually a throwback to the loading screens from the original Wolfenstein 3D. As we can see here, the original Get Psyched loading screen would be seen during Wolfenstein 3D to let you know how insane the level you're about to endure was going to be. A perfectly appropriate way to start off the video and to start off the game. Now this leads straight into the opening cutscene where BJ is actually asleep and he has this dream sequence. It's essentially him in another life where the war has ended and he's been able to return home and get married and have children. This is actually a rather clever reference or homage to the original post-war timeline of Wolfenstein where BJ retired and married Julia Marie Peterson. That timeline was scrapped and made way for the current Wolfenstein timeline of BJ. So this flashback dream sequence is both an Easter egg and also, I suppose, a clever way of saying the older Wolfenstein games were just dreams. Ah yes, now onto probably one of the strangest Easter eggs in this video or in any of my Easter egg videos. At the beginning of Chapter 1, Deathshead's compound, you'll be in a plane and things are going pretty badly. Engines are blowing up, planes around you are dropping out of the sky, you get shot at, you've got to run around, put out fires, close pipes, open doors, pull levers, secure hatches, all that kind of stuff. It's very intense. Now at one point, to survive, you have to jump out of the airplane, and to do so you need to open the door. However, if you choose to not open the door, Fergus will ask you to do it again, and if you still don't do it, well, this will happen.
Open the cockpit door, BJ, hold it open!
What? I'm as confused as you. The third time he asks you to open the door, a crowbar comes out of the console and swings at you. Not only that, but there's a strange voice that calls you a dick for, well, quite frankly, being a dick.
Open the cockpit door, BJ, hold it open!
The plane's going down, you gotta jump out, it's a matter of seconds, yet you're choosing to stand there to do nothing. Then this omnipresent voice calls you a dick and swings a crowbar at you. Fair enough? No idea what that's about, but it's definitely worth noting. Now throughout this same level you can find some Nazi beds. Around these beds are various pictures and posters, but next to one of them, there is actually an artwork called the Feldhase, or the Young Hare, which is a watercolor and body color painting, which was done in the year 1502 by the German artist Albrecht Dürer. Why it's here? I don't know, I suppose this guy just has good taste. Rabbit does taste good. Now on this same level, on Chapter 1, if you set off the alarm, interestingly it's actually the exact same alarm that's used in 2001's Return to Castle Wolfenstein, as you'll hear here. Now the reason that this is particularly notable is because this is the only level in which the original Return to Castle Wolfenstein siren is used. All the other levels throughout Wolfenstein The New Order use a completely different siren sound, so pretty cool throwback there. Ah yes, one of my absolute favorites that blew me away when I found it. Around the start of the game when you go to Anya's grandparents' house, there's a scene in which you encounter a chainsaw. It's also the only time in the game in which you get to use a chainsaw. And if you look a little bit closer at it, you'll see something very interesting looking right back at you. Can't see it yet? We'll zoom in a bit more. Still nothing? Alright, a bit more. You see it. You see in that orange circle there's the face of the original Doom guy. I'll pause the video so it's not moving around so much, but you can pretty clearly see that this is the face of Doom guy on this chainsaw. And for some clarity, here is the face of the original Doom guy, and here are all of the faces that he pulls throughout the original Doom games. Which variation is used here on this chainsaw, I'm not too sure, but regardless, it's pretty clear that his face is here. And this makes sense because id Software founded both Wolfenstein and Doom. And when one thinks of a chainsaw in games, it pretty much goes straight to Doom. So the fact that Doom Guy's face is on the chainsaw in Wolfenstein, a game founded by id Software, the same company that founded Doom, it makes sense. And it's a lovely little companion to have there with you on your chainsaw. Ah yes, during the start of chapter 3, we can actually find a shed where it would seem the Nazi soldiers actually dislike their superiors, specifically Frau Engel and Bubi, as on the wall here we can find very poorly drawn pictures of them with knives and bullet holes in them, of course suggesting that the soldiers use pictures of their superiors as target practice. Not only that, but this is the only place in the game where one can find watermelons, and unlike every other article of food, they cannot be eaten, but they can be shot and exploded into small, lovely, bite-sized pieces that ironically you can't bite. On this same level, on the lift in which you have to raise, there is a truck. And before you raise the lift, behind the truck, there is actually a car held up on some blocks in the garage. And you can actually drive this car. Well, kind of.
Hey, darling. How about we go for a spin? Okay. Back to work.
An Easter egg that's going nowhere fast, but nonetheless still some fun. At the beginning of mission 4, before making your way into the prison, once you clear out all of the Nazi soldiers from this room, the phone will call. You can actually pick up this phone and, I suppose, hear a funny, one-sided conversation.
Müller, ich habe die Kreissaugefangenen 16 Stunden lang am Stück verhört. Diese nächtelangen Verhöre bringen mich noch ins frühe Grab. Ich gehe jetzt nach Hause und schicke die Gefangenen zurück nach Eisenwald. Der Bus ist wohl eingetroffen. Müller? Müller, antworten Sie! Verdammt, Müller, Sie erwarten, dass ich Sie bei jeder Kleinigkeit um Erlaubnis frage und Sie besitzen nicht mal den Anstand, auf eine einfache Transportanfrage zu antworten. Lecken Sie mich doch am Arsch, Sie Drecksack! Sie sind eine Schande für die ganze Operation! Ich nehme keine Befehle mehr von Ihnen entgegen, verstanden?
Ah yes, quite a funny one. As you will find around the game, references to Nazis being on the moon. Like in this article here, first German lands on the moon. Yesterday afternoon, astronaut Hans Armstock became the first man to walk on the moon. Blah 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 blah. Wow, isn't that some strong imagery? But did you catch that? The astronaut's name, the first one to walk on the moon, was Hans Armstock. This is Wolfenstein's allusion to Neil Armstrong, the first man to walk on the moon. And Armstock in German literally translates to Armstrong. So we've got Neil Armstrong, and then the alternate Wolfenstein version, Hans Armstrong. And I tell you what, BJ's not too pleased about it. In fact, in the London Nautica, he's quite vocal about it.
Okay, you put a Nazi on the moon. Fuck you, moon.
Now the character Frau Engel actually carries a golden pistol with her. This is likely a homage to the classic James Bond weapon, the golden gun. While of course they don't look identical, they do look pretty similar. And you will actually be able to snatch this thing up later on as a treasure. And here in the collectibles tab, we can get a better look at it. Now, Miss Engel's companion here, Bubi, as she calls him, well, his actual name is Hans, and the nickname Bubi is a direct reference to the film Die Hard, in which the film's antagonist, Hans Gruber, is referred to at one point as Bubi for no particular reason, and apparently that line was actually improvised. But regardless, we've got a Hans in Wolfenstein, who is nicknamed Bubi, and we've got a Hans in Die Hard that is nicknamed Bubi. And let's move on, because now all I'm thinking about is a big pair of boobies. Now on the train we can actually find a poster that looks a little bit familiar. IDKFA? Interesting. Anyway, on this same train we can actually find a newspaper article talking about this IDKFA. As we'll see here, IDKFA World Tour begins in Berlin. Next month, the Dynamic Four will enter the stage blah 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 to perform their music from their latest album Das Blaue U-Boot, which translates to The Blue U-Boat, which is of course an allusion to the Yellow Submarine. And interestingly, the band name IDKFA translates to The Bugs, which of course is the Beatles. So we've got the band The Bugs releasing an album called The Blue U-Boat. Again, clearly a reference to the Beatles and the Yellow Submarine. However, the Wolfenstein parallel universe music does not stop there. As in the home base, there's a bedroom here where we can actually find the vinyl for the Beatles album The Blue U-Boat, which of course has that famous imagery of the Beatles crossing Abbey Road. Not only that, but you can actually pick up this vinyl, then go to your collectibles tab and play their music, which is all being re-recorded in German. And again, it doesn't stop there. There's plenty of Wolfenstein Germanized music to be found, as later on in the sewers under the base, we can find a vinyl for Volksmusik All-Stars, which includes the track House of the Rising Sun. Again, it's recorded in German. And finally, much further into the game, again in the sewers under the base, we can find another vinyl, and for some reason when you pick it up you can't play any music, although it prompts you to. But the interesting thing here is it's a record from Karl and Karla. This is a clear homage to Paul and Paula, who were a famous American pop singing duo that only lasted 3 years, but they were big in the 60s. And again, of course, we have here Wolfenstein's version, Karl and Karla. Now throughout the game, we will encounter these Panzerhunds, which just means armored dog, these big robotic dog things. They have quite clearly taken influence from the Xenomorphs from the Alien movie series, particularly the heads. The nice, big, long, smooth heads with no eyes and just these savage metallic teeth ready to snip you in half. Well, inside the tools room in the base, when you walk in, everything's normal until you look up and the cinematics or imagery is clearly positioned with the Xenomorphs from Alien in mind. Check this out. Those big metal teeth looking down at you, ready to kill you, just as we see so many times throughout the Alien movies. And just for more clarity, here's a comparison between the two. Menacing indeed. Now, during the Wyatt timeline specifically, there's a character called Jay, who can be found knocking around the headquarters. Now, Jay is 100% meant to be Jimi Hendrix, the Wolfenstein version of Jimi Hendrix. He plays the guitar, and he plays it left-handed. He was born in Seattle, just like Hendrix. His father was drafted during World War II, just like Hendrix. The ambient music that you can hear Jay playing while you walk around the Resistance headquarters sounds similar to the song The Wind Cries Mary by the Jimi Hendrix Experience. And last, but definitely not least, Jay's final act of defiance against the Nazis is to play a special rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner, the sound of which strongly resembles that of Jimi Hendrix's famous performance on August the 18th, 1969 at Woodstock. And just as a little laugh and nod to the 60s, in Jay's room you can find his guitar on the workbench. If you interact with it, he'll come to the room and start talking to you. While it gets a bit heated, it ends up a bit six-dimensional. As you sit down to jam with Jay, Jay will take an eyedropper and put into BJ's mouth the fastest acting psychedelic substance known to mankind. And in that moment, BJ will go on a lovely ride. And well, yeah, you can actually trip out in Wolfenstein The New Order. Then he'll wake up and straight back to it.
Dark glimpse what a free mind can accomplish. What this world has turned its back on. I was on a ride no one else had taken. And in that moment, I was at the feet of a god.
Now, just as J is unique to the Wyatt timeline, there is a character called Tekla, who is unique to the Fergus timeline. And just as J is a tribute to the pop culture icon Jimi Hendrix, Tekla is a personification of a famous person, Nikola Tesla, and of course she is a homage to him, as she is an overachieved genius whose every waking moment consists of making calculations. And while she scrolls complex quantum physics equations all around the room, there is one very important thing that she has written down. It can be found right here on this piece of wood leaning against the wall. IDKFA. This is actually a reference to Doom 1 and Doom 2, as it is the famous cheat code that everyone knew from the original Dooms, where it gives you full health, full ammunition and armor, as well as all the keys and weapons in the game. So as mentioned, it's definitely the most important thing to write down. Now, if we go into Max's room, well, we can find a bunch of toys and knickknacks lying around, Lego pieces to step on and all. On his bed, we can actually find power stars from Super Mario, in the form of course, lovely plush cushions. So that's a cool little Nintendo reference there, hopefully not enough for them to need to take all of the revenue from this video. And if we actually look up, we can find another one hanging off the mobile. Now, if we go down to the hangar of the Resistance base, I'm sure you've all seen this, but it's really cool and definitely has to be pointed out. You have these two huge hangar doors, circular doors. One could call them vault doors. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, this is a reference to Fallout 3, specifically Vault 101, in which you, the player character, is born in, grows up, all that jazz, basically where the game Fallout 3 starts. And as we can see, here in Wolfenstein, in the Resistance base, these huge hangar doors are similarly shaped as the vault doors. Not only that, but this hangar door has the numbers 101 on it. So this is quite literally the Vault Door 101. A lovely nod there. Now, while down here in the hangar, there is a point in the missions when we have to cut off some moldy concrete. To do so, we need to find a circular saw. Finding it's a bit of a mission, you fall down into the sewers, no problem, but once you get back up to the concrete and start sawing it, while the noise causes a bit of a ruckus for poor old Max there is something very missable, yet very cool, slapped on the side of the circular saw. I'll have to pause the video and do some flipping and things like this, but as we can see, there is a logo on the side of the saw. You think, no problems, the Wolfenstein logo, all good. Well, if you look closely, the eagle actually has two heads. Now, this is actually the logo used in 2001's Return to Castle Wolfenstein, where, as we can see here, the current logo, Wolfenstein The New Order's logo, just has one head of the eagle. So for some reason, one of the developers decided to do a little nod to their older Wolfenstein games by using the old 2001 Return to Castle Wolfenstein logo on the circular saw. In Caroline's room, we can actually find a big poster of a kind of, I don't know, German pin-up girl who is straddling this bomb and riding it down. First of all, this image here is clearly based on a scene from the movie Dr. Strangelove, in which Major Kong straddles a falling bomb while waving around his cowboy hat. Probably one of the most iconic scenes in all of cinema history. And as we can see here, this lovely lady is straddling a bomb and she's got a cowboy hat on. Now, not only that, but if we look very closely at the logo on her cowboy hat, we will discover that it's actually the logo of Machine Games, the studio that has created Wolfenstein The New Order. So they are quite literally tipping the hat to themselves, as this lady here is tipping her hat with their logo on it. So how about that, eh? Now, the final Easter egg / 2 Easter eggs that can be found within the Resistance headquarters, I'm sure you've all seen a million times. On the top floor, over in the corner, lit up by a lantern, there's a dirty old mattress. Now, on the wall behind the lamp is actually a poster which was one of the loading screens or menu screens from the original Wolfenstein 3D. And if you look down at the mattress, you can actually activate it to begin the nightmare. What the nightmare will do is actually teleport you to a slightly altered version of the first level of the original Wolfenstein 3D. You get to take your weapons and things like that through, but for the most part, it's the original one. Now again, I'm sure you've seen this a million times, so here's a little something else that you probably haven't seen before. In this nightmare level, there is a triple secret that reveals an Easter egg. As there is a secret wall, you push the wall, it reveals a new room. Within that room, there's another secret wall. You push that, it reveals a room that contains the secret hidden exit. But before you exit, there is actually another third secret wall that if you push, will reveal the final secret room, in which health packs have been laid out in a fashion that spells out the letters MG. MG, of course, representing the games studio Machine Games, the guys that made Wolfenstein: The New Order. So pack that in your lunch and take it to school. Now finally, once we get out of the Resistance headquarters base, we'll be making our way to the London Nautica. Now in this car, I'm sure you've seen this a million times as well, on the keyring, we can actually find the rocket launcher from Quake 3. I'll pause the video so we can get a really clear comparison here. As you can see, the keychain there, the rocket launcher's there, and here is an image of the rocket launcher from Quake 3. Now in case you didn't know, id Software founded Wolfenstein and they also founded Quake. That's probably why the Quake reference is in here. Now something you probably didn't know is if you spend too long looking at this damned here keychain, you're gonna miss what's out the other side of the car. As you're driving towards the London Nautica, keep an eye out for this sign here, Maschinenspiele, which translates from German to English and says Machine Games. Machine Games, once again, the gaming studio that created Wolfenstein: The New Order. And apparently their headquarters is just to the right, according to, of course, this highway sign. Now there is a character called Roth, who is a Jewish scientist who joins the Allied Rebellion. He's also a retired watchmaker. This is likely an allusion to Albert Einstein, as Albert Einstein was a scientist who left Europe to join the Allies. Not only that, but Albert Einstein was also a watchmaker, as once the atom bomb dropped on Hiroshima, Albert Einstein made the quip, "I should have remained a watchmaker," meaning that yes, Albert was once a watchmaker. And Seth Roth, the Jewish scientist who joined the Allied Rebellion in Wolfenstein, is also a retired watchmaker. And the antagonist, Deathshead. He definitely has some similarities with the Marvel Comics and Captain America villain Red Skull. Both of them are high-ranking Nazi officers. They both have skull-themed names/aliases. They both develop advanced weapons, and to admittedly vastly different degrees, have a skull-like appearance. Also, Deathshead's creation, the Super Soldier, when their face masks are knocked off, it reveals what's underneath. Disfigured faces that look very similar to Red Skull's face. Oh, and just a little tidbit of information, but by the time the end of Wolfenstein: The New Order rolls around, Deathshead is the oldest living character in this series at 100 years of age. So happy birthday to him. Now during the concentration camp mission, we will encounter this giant walking robot thing called a Herr Faust. I believe that's how it's pronounced, which basically just means Mr. Fist, which is what they call me on Friday nights. But anyway, Mr. Fist here is heavily inspired by the, ironically, heavy walker of the Red Faction series. As we can see here, a side-by-side. And on this same mission, when you get to sneak into Frau Engel's office at the camp, over next to the window, she actually has a liquor cabinet with a collection of her favorite alcoholic beverages. Now, Machine Games goes out of their way not to name drop companies into Wolfenstein because companies get funny about their brands being associated with, Nazis. And while they didn't name drop, there is one bottle here that is quite clearly Jack Daniels. Frau Engels here got a taste for the good old American Tennessee Jack Daniels whiskey. And in case you're unfamiliar with Jack Daniels, here's a Jack Daniels bottle. And of course, similarities are uncanny. Of course, again, Machine Games dare not put the actual name on the bottle, but it's pretty obvious that this is a good old bottle of Jack. Now these next two Easter eggs will leave us wondering why. As on Mission 12, the Gibraltar Bridge, if you make a rather daring jump across to this secret area, we can find a staircase that runs up the pillar of the bridge. And in this stairwell, on the wall, we can find this text. Why Torbjorn? That's a good question. Why Torbjorn? Well, it doesn't really answer why, but if we look in the credits of Wolfenstein: The New Order, we can find 1. Torbjorn Allen, who is the senior environment artist at Machine Games. So the only person that we can ask as to why this is here is Torbjorn. And that question would be, ironically, why Torbjorn? Although there is a second person we could ask, as later into the level, in an office, there is, written on a wall, why Emil? And would you believe it, in the Wolfenstein New Order credits, again, if we look, we can find one Emil Gleason, who is the technical animator. Why these exist, no one knows, except for Torbjorn and Emil. Now, also on this bridge mission, basically you blow up half the bridge. It's a huge attack to the Nazis. Every soldier's on deck to stop you, except for this guy. He's really hard to see, but if you stand on the very edge of the bridge and look down, we can actually find a Nazi officer sitting on the edge of the bridge. You can even see his little legs kicking there. He's not standing or contemplating jumping. He's just sitting, chilling, enjoying the view. He's got his back to all the action, and he's on a little vacation. Unfortunately, there's no way to get to him or interact with him, although you can shoot him and kill him. But very strange indeed. What he's up to, I don't know. If you stuck around this long, you've earned this reward. We're going to the moon. Yes, that's right. In Chapter 13, when we go to the Nazi moon base, we can find two very interesting things. First of all, in one of the soldiers' rooms, there is a computer, and on that computer we can clearly see on the screen that this guy's been playing Wolfenstein 3D. As we can see, one of Wolfenstein 3D's loading screens present on the computer screen of this Nazi officer on the lunar base. And what's even more interesting is the computer that it's being played on. Now, I have to give a quick thank you to my followers on Twitter who helped me figure out what was actually going on here. So be sure to follow me on Twitter so you can help me with my next Easter egg video. But here we go. On the lunar base, I noticed that most of the computer screens are unreadable except for this one. Now, with the help of a German follower on Twitter, he was able to translate the whole screen for me. Unfortunately, it didn't reveal anything interesting. It's just about security and stuff like that. But something I did notice was in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a circle and the German word Pflaume, which translates to plum. Now, we all sat there together on Twitter and said, why the hell does it say plum? And then, bing, it clicked. One of my followers figured it out. This is a homage to Apple, the computer brand, Macintosh, Apple. This is the Wolfenstein variant, plum. Not only that, but all over the computer systems in the lunar base, we can see this same word, plum. Not only that, but the logo for the computer brand Plum is a kind of rainbow plum, just as we see with the vintage Apple logo, which is a rainbow apple. So quite hilariously, we've got the Wolfenstein version of Apple, which is plum. Penultimately, on the final mission in Deathshead's base, in one of his scientific rooms, we can find one of Leonardo da Vinci's works, the Vitruvian Man, redesigned, restructured as one of Deathshead's super soldiers. As we can see, it's been adapted to the optimal proportions of the Nazi super soldier. And finally, during the final battle with Deathshead, when he hops into his big machine and he becomes Mecha Deathshead, he will yell out this, which is a direct reference to, once again, the original Wolfenstein 3D, as the final battle in that game is against none other than Mecha Hitler. First of all, you're fighting the game's main antagonist in their mecha form, in their robot suits. And secondly, during this fight, in 1992's Wolfenstein 3D, Mecha Hitler, while fighting you, will say the exact same line, which translates to "Die, Allied Pig Dog."
Die, Allied Schweinhund.
So a lovely way to finish off the game and a lovely little nod to finish off the video. So I do hope that you enjoyed this video of all of the Easter eggs in 2014's Wolfenstein The New Order. If you did enjoy this video, please feel free to share it with all of your friends and be sure to leave a like on it. It makes the video look good. Be sure to leave a comment with your favorite Easter eggs and be sure to let me know if I missed any Easter eggs found in Wolfenstein The New Order. Of course, if you did enjoy this video and you want to see more videos similar to this one, please subscribe. It helps me know that people enjoy this kind of content and in the long run will result in more of this type of content. Be sure to click the little bell icon next to the subscribe button right here on YouTube so that you are notified when I upload a new Easter egg video. Now most importantly, you can find all of the other Easter egg videos that I've already done in the links down in the description. Be sure to check them out, they're a lot of fun and I put a lot of work into them so you can enjoy all the hidden Easter eggs in your favorite games. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, and if you'd like to support the channel in a more personal way, you can of course become a heroic patron on Patreon. Links to everything can be found down in the description, and as I'm sure you know, all of my time and energy goes into making these videos that I create for you to enjoy, so your support is most appreciated and welcomed in any and all forms. Feel free to check out the playlist on screen. Thank you very much for watching, thank you for supporting the channel, and I will see you very shortly in the next video. I'll see you there soon.